Hi, I'm Tim Iden with the City of Peoria Digital Team, and welcome to a live Q&A, Code Compliance 101. We get so many questions through Facebook and through our website that are related to code, and we wanted to see if we could bring the Code Compliance Department in and just answer all those questions at once. So we're going to be monitoring Facebook throughout this show. Ask your questions on Facebook, and we will get them answered live on air. If we don't get to your question, we'll make sure to get in touch with you afterwards, and we'll also do a follow-up just to make sure that you get your question answered specifically. So joining me today, Eric Hanna is the Code Compliance Supervisor. Thank you so much for coming in today, Eric. I really appreciate it. And we have a Code Officer, Mark Hilt. Mark, thank you very, very much for coming in. Your job is probably going out in the field a little bit. Why don't you tell us a little bit about what you do?
My role right now is to go out and inspect residential and commercial properties and look and see if we have any code violations that are occurring on those properties or that parcel, and try to address the code issue, if there is one, the best that we can do. We'll work with the homeowner or the business owner to try to come to a good resolution to the problem, so it's convenient for them and it's still a win-win for the city.
Fantastic. Eric, tell me a little bit about code in general, because even the name of this, Code 101, what does code compliance do in general? Can you give me an overview?
So that's a good question. Without having to, I guess, kind of read paragraphs about what code compliance, code enforcement is, I would say basically code compliance, if you kind of break it down, it's enforcing city code and regulations that kind of regulate the health and safety of the community. So I know for the city of Peoria, what that means is we regulate, or we enforce 27 chapters of the city code, 207 sections of the zoning ordinance, the International Property Maintenance Code, and a couple other things. So if you think about it, I mean, we do run the gamut, anywhere from like weeds and debris all the way up to life and safety issues, which could be like a dangerous building or something blocking the traffic triangle or the sight triangle.
Yeah, and you know what? I think a lot of the questions that we get in that people have are things that they want someone to come out and look at and someone to take care of, and that's really what you guys do. You're really out in the community for the most part.
We are. So typically what happens is, as members of the community, excuse me, you'll have a complaint, you send it to us, one of my officers will actually go out and investigate that. And then there's a process that we go from there. But obviously, yeah, so we're out there looking for kind of the violations, the health and the safety things in the community. And we find them, we see them, we kind of address them and work with the community to fix those things.
All right, so let's start, and we are getting some questions coming in. Thank you very much, guys, for asking them. We love to hear them. Let's start with some of the questions that we've had people ask us over the last week, and probably one of the biggest ones that we get through social media this time of year is on weeds, and just, my neighbor has weeds in their yard. What can I do about that? I'm sure you guys get that a lot.
We do. So do you want to take that?
So really that would probably come to me, because most of the weed issues that we deal with are on residential properties, and weeds are a violation of the city code if they are 6 inches or higher. Sometimes we do get calls that a neighbor might just have a couple little sprouts coming up, and that's not typically a violation that we will talk to the homeowner right away. We might monitor that house to see if it becomes a bigger problem. Now we do have situations where we might have a lot of ground clutter and weeds that are not 6 inches, but the entire yard is covered with weeds. And then we will go up and talk to the homeowner and try to figure out a good resolution to getting this problem taken care of, because then we're starting to get into a blight situation. And that's something that we don't want to take over, that residential neighborhood of having a lot of ground clutter. So, but typically we just deal with 6 inches on the height of the weeds, and then we'll make contact with them and try to figure out a good solution.
And Mark, you make a really great point that our job is, you're not the weed police, right? Our job is to find a resolution.
Yes.
Eric, can you tell us a little bit about that process where someone calls in a complaint? What's the next step? He goes out, he maybe sees that that complaint is valid. What's the process?
So the process is first of all, there's several ways that you can do a complaint, right? So you can call our graffiti or sorry, a complaint hotline. You can do it online. There's several different ways. There's an Apple order, which is really nice. But once we get the complaint, our admin assistant is going to put that into a system. Our policies are we try to address all violations or all complaints, I should say, within 5 business days. But we're really good. We usually do that within 48 hours. So we get the complaint. It will show up, like, for instance, on Officer Hilt's screen. He'll go out. He'll investigate it. If it's a valid violation, what he's going to do is he's going to leave a courtesy notice with the property owner. So what we try to do is we try to make contact at the door, because obviously there's going to be some questions, and that's a great time to answer those questions. We'll kind of explain what the violation is. We'll tell them how much time they have to fix it. Typically, we give about 7 days to fix a violation. If they're not home, of course, we're just going to leave a notice on the door, and if they have any questions, they can contact us. From there, we'll re-inspect after the expiration of that. So let's say we give them 7 days, we come back, the 8th day or whatever, we'll go out and re-inspect. And from there, it's, if they took care of the violation, it's great. We close the case and there's nothing else that happens. If the violation's still there, typically what we'll do is we'll issue a final notice, again, stating what the violation is, give them the time to fix it, and then we'll go from there. Of course, if there's not a violation, we just close the case and we move on.
Yeah.
I think one of the biggest points to add to him is if the homeowner is actually communicating with us and working with us, even though we've given the courtesy notice and we are seeing progress and they say, my work schedule or finances or other things aren't allowing me to get, that problem resolved, in the 7-day window, then we can extend out a couple days and we can work with them. But the biggest thing is as long as they're communicating with our office, then things can progress and we can get it resolved.
Yeah, it sounds like a little bit of a balancing act where you want on the one hand to make sure that we're keeping Peoria beautiful
Right.
and following those codes, and on the other hand, there are life circumstances sometimes. How do you
Exactly.
deal with that balance?
Well, we take it case by case scenario, and like I said, reiterated about the communication is that we have other resources in the city that we can utilize.
Mm-hmm.
Like some people might not have the necessary tools to take care of the problem. So we do have a tool lending program that we can make available, and there's other resources like if a debris issue is piling up, we can explain that they can call solid waste and maybe get a bulk trash pickup. I mean, we can just kind of navigate and see what works best for them because we really are there to work with them and get it resolved. Sometimes, somebody might think that, we just want to come in and issue a citation. The citation is so far down the road, we want to get the neighborhoods looking, really pristine and beautiful for them. So it's a good living environment, for the citizens. So that how can we get it resolved and how can we not have to continue to come back and deal with the situation.
And I'm so glad that you mentioned all of the resources that Peoria has to offer. And I want to read a comment because it was really nice. Somebody said, thank you for doing a thankless job. And I've been in community meetings before where maybe the public is upset about something. So it can, I'm sure to you sometimes feel like you're getting grilled a little bit. So somebody wanted to say thank you for doing that thankless job. But
thank you.
Thank you.
Going back to those resources, I mean, what an amazing thing that you can go out and say, did you know? Can you talk a little bit more about that lending program? Because I don't think most people know that we have, different resources that we can help. Maybe even graffiti. I know we have some resources for that. Either one of you, please.
Yeah, so the tool lending program is actually really good. If you think of it, it's almost like the library. So like you at a library, you would check out a book. At the tool lending center, you could check out, let's say, a lawnmower or something like that. So just give us a call. We'll schedule that time with you. You pick it up, you use it, you bring it back. There's absolutely no cost involved. We have a lot of equipment. And the thing is, realistically, a lot of people hardly use it. So these things stay kind of in our warehouse, and we would love to, lend those things out to you guys. So again, if you're upright, you're about ready to take care of your lawn and your weed whacker breaks, we'll lend one to you. We have a lot of really nice equipment out there. So as far as graffiti, good thing. It's a good point. Recently, we actually just started kind of a new pilot program with our graffiti, and that's we will actually abate or take care of the graffiti for you. So all we ask is, obviously, we're going to need your permission. So you're going to sign a waiver. But if you have graffiti on your walls and things like that, just give us a call. And if we have your permission, we'll go out there and we'll abate it for free. There's no cost in that. If it's something like on your house, that's a little more tricky. We kind of focus, obviously, a little more on some outward facing things. But as far as businesses, HOAs, and things like that, I mean, it's a service that we're providing. We just started May 4th. So if you see something, give us a call. We'd love to go out there and take care of it for you.
And that's why I'm really glad we're doing this Code 101 class, because sometimes when you hear code compliance or a code compliance officer, if you will, they think of the ticket and they don't think of us coming out and doing these services or helping with these services. So thank you guys for all that you do. I'm going to throw a hard one at you now, because we're going to take a right turn, and that is, I know another one we hear a lot about is barking dogs. I don't know which one of you wants to take that one, but I know that's a real common complaint, and I know it's difficult for you guys too.
It is, and it does come to our office quite frequently. But as far as barking dogs goes, you would need to contact the police department. We don't handle any barking dog complaints. That just goes right to the police department, unfortunately. Yeah,
so we have an animal control division, and they're the ones that would take care of that. So that's, I would say, if you have a barking dog, call a non-emergency number. They're at 623-773-8311. Give them a call. They're open 24 hours a day, and they'll take care of those complaints.
Gotcha. Hey, follow-up question on the lending tool program. Do you guys have ladders by chance?
Yes, we do.
We do.
Mm-hmm. Excellent, excellent. That was a question from Bobby D. Orlando. Bobby, thanks for watching. And also, Bobby says, hey guys, hope all is well.
Awesome,
so,
thank you.
Yes,
thanks,
of course.
Bobby.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. We really appreciate that. So let's stick on blight for a minute, and then I'd like to talk a little bit about vehicles and parking.
Sure.
I used to work for the fire department. I spent about 10 years with the fire department, and I got to go on a lot of fire scenes. And one of the scariest things that those firefighters have to do is to go into the home of a hoarder. Yeah. Maybe the backyard, maybe the garage. You're a next door neighbor. You see that. You want to help. You don't know what to do. And I know sometimes you guys end up with the call. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, that's a tough one. So unfortunately, within the city of Peoria, we do not have a hoarding code per se. So we do get these. Actually, we get several complaints a year about, just what you said, right? So people, my neighbor is storing a lot of stuff in their backyard. We're concerned. So with that, we have to take a very light touch to it, I guess I should say. So as many people might understand and hope is that, you have property rights, right? So we're not here to take away or infringe upon anybody's property rights. Those rights actually still go with you into your backyard. So it becomes tricky when we're talking about people's backyards. So as long as if it's a health and safety issue, we can investigate it. But again, it just becomes a little bit challenging, and it's not an easy fix. I know, unfortunately, the community, you would love us to come in right away and deal with something, and I get that, and we wish we could. But on things like that, it takes a little while longer to deal with. Right. So health and safety, like fire issues. So we actually had a fire in a backyard, actually I think about 2 weeks ago, and it was because of a lot of stuff in the backyard. We're opening a case on that because it was a fire danger because it caught on fire. So we're able to kind of help the community and get things like that cleaned up. But it's, like I said, as long as it's not in public view. So if the trash or stuff where it's accumulating over a wall, that's different, because it's in public view.
And let me follow up on that with the question about public view, because that's real important. Some people that are watching this with code compliance are thinking the government is telling me what to do, and you're saying that no, you have property rights.
Absolutely.
Talk a little bit about what that means with the public view and what we can and can't do.
Sure. So typically, we will enforce things that we can see, right? So if it's in public view, or if we can see it from the street or sidewalk, we will take care of it. That's basically public view. So if it's behind your fence and we can't see it, we're not going to look over your wall. We're not going to stand on top of our vehicles to gain a height advantage. We don't think that's legal, and it's certainly not ethical. I know some jurisdictions, they may do that, but in the city of Peoria, we're not going to do that. So if it can't be seen from the street or the sidewalk, it's not public view, and it just becomes really tricky for us to be able to do that. I mean, we could go through the courts and seek maybe an administrative warrant to do an inspection, but those are extremely rare, and we use those for real life and safety issues.
Right. And
I think Tim, one of the things that I see when I'm going out to homeowners and speaking with them is sometimes just the lack of education on why the code is there. You know, sometimes they think that, okay, it's the code, you know, the government's just putting that, they just want to issue a citation and generate revenue. And that's not what the code is for. The code is really there for the safety of the homeowners in the neighborhoods and the businesses. Like when we go out and we educate the public on why the code is there, then they kind of understand, like holiday lights. You know, living in the desert, you know, a lot of times we'll see that the heat, you know, gets to the wiring. And once you explain that, why you can't have the lights up and, you know, they're going to deteriorate in the warmer climate, and then you go to plug them in and then they cause a fire. And then once you explain that to the homeowner, then they kind of like, oh yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, I'll get them down, officer. That totally makes sense. And it's just about educating them also on what the code is. And getting back to the blight issue, if you go in and you talk to the homeowner and you explain, you know, all the debris that's in the backyard, it's a risk to your family, and it's a risk to the other neighbors around you, that if we do have a fire here, it could be, you know, really detrimental to, you know, your living conditions and your neighbors.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, when I was with the fire department, my job was public educator, and I feel like my role with the fire department was actually real similar to what you do, is, you know, not just yelling at people to change your smoke detector batteries, but saying, hey, did you know your smoke detectors only last 10 years, and then they could not work in a fire? I mean, just that simple education, you know, that eye-opening experience. I also installed car seats with the fire department, and, you know, that's a real eye-opener for moms and dads to realize they were doing something wrong with, you know, the way they installed their child seat. So I really think education is kind of key to your job. We had another question come in. Let's see. You kind of addressed this, and I'm not sure what this question is asking specifically, but I'll ask it. It says, are holiday lights okay now during the pandemic? I don't think anything's really changed.
So, and I assume, I've been seeing that, right? So it sounds like people are putting up Christmas lights or holiday lights to kind of
cheer up the neighborhood. That makes sense. I wasn't sure with the question, but I've seen a lot of people, and I'm sorry to jump in, but I know a lot of people are like decorating the sidewalks with chalk right now. So, yeah, well, how are we handling those
Chalk
things?
is fine, right? So we don't have any regulations about people chalking, so feel free, please do that. It looks great. So, as long as it's HOA, if you live in HOA, right? We don't, you know, so if they prohibit it, right? But as far as lights, basically what it is you're allowed to have holiday decorations within 60 days of relevant holiday or season, right? So technically, would like holiday lights be allowed right now? No. Are we going to come knock on your door?
Yeah.
I don't think we are.
We
understand what's going on.
I know a lot of people are putting blue lights out for workers and things like that. And like you said, our job isn't to go out and bust you for lights. Our job is to, I don't work with you guys, but the city's job is really to educate. And if they left those blue lights up 3 months from now, that
different story.
Yeah, maybe they're not saying thank you to the workers right now. All right, great. We're going to pivot. I don't have any questions coming in, but again, thank you everybody that's asking questions. Thank you to everybody that's watching online. We've actually got a pretty decent sized audience right now.
Good.
So
nice.
Thank you very much. I wanted to ask one more question, and this one, it's kind of personal to me, so you know, I like to learn things. I was asking these guys questions before we even started about my neighborhood, so I'm sure, you know, every party you guys go to, somebody corners you with a question about something. But
they do.
Okay, so we have all those yellow trees right now. Everything's blooming, everything's going, and my swimming pool is just filled with my neighbor's leaves. I know you guys get the call a lot on that. And when you get the call, what do you explain to people?
So when it comes to trees that are in backyards or on the side of your property, that becomes a civil matter. That's between you and your neighbor. And we can come out and we can help mediate and try to, you know, figure out what's the best solution and just communicate to the two parties. But that's basically a civil issue. Now, the time that we do get involved is if the trees are out front and they are hanging over the sidewalk. And now, if they're hanging over the sidewalk, we do require that the canopy be trimmed where it's at 7 feet. And if the canopy is going out into the street and the right of way, we do require 14 feet on trimming those trees.
Yeah. And it sounds like the way to handle that is the way that I handled it, which was knock on my neighbor's door and say, hey,
Exactly.
it is really between, it's in my backyard, it's in their backyard, it's between me and the neighbor, and that's why we're all neighborly with people, so we can see if we can mediate those things on our own.
And Tim, I think that's a good point. And I don't know what happened in our society where we're afraid to talk to our neighbors, right? But, when I was a code enforcement officer, I would knock on those doors to help mediate, and it would be an elderly, widow, right? And she's like, I can't reach the backyard. I can't, go over the fence to cut those branches. So had the neighbor have taken the time to ask, like, hey, can we help you? It's not that she was trying to be rude. It was just, she just couldn't physically do it. So, what we do tell people, obviously, is try to reach out to your neighbor if you feel safe. If you don't feel safe, we're not going to tell you to knock on someone's door, right? But, legally, technically speaking, if a branch is over on your side of the property, you can trim it back, okay? We just warn people that technically, if you damage the tree, you kill a tree, you could be held legally responsible. So, kind of do that at your own risk. Yeah. But we get it. I mean, it's frustrating. We're all property owners. It happens in my yard too. It's frustrating, but we ask to try to handle it as neighbors, and then if you need our help, we'll try to get involved as best as we can.
Very good. Thank you for that one. That's it's like I said, it's something that impacted me, and it's just a knock on the next door neighbor's door. The other thing I want to mention, because we talked a lot about resources throughout the city, there are so many resources that I don't think people realize. We have a whole webpage called Peoria Support, and you go to Peoria Support, and there's things like meal delivery, helping senior citizens with just the sort of things that you were talking about. We have a virtual job fair coming up, so all of those resources really, that's what Peoria is trying to do, is make those connections with our residents, not just through code compliance, but throughout the city as well.
Absolutely.
And we do have a volunteer group that is working with our department that you guys, homeowners, can call up our department, and we can see if we can match one of those volunteer groups with the violation or what is occurring on your property.
And we have HOA grants, and for the first time we have some non-HOA grants.
We do.
Available for homeowners and homeowners associations to do some cleanup in their neighborhoods as well. So again, Peoria's job is, we want our city to be as beautiful as we know that it is.
Absolutely. And if I can kind of touch on that a little bit. So I think one of the major misconceptions with code enforcement is that, we're really quick to write a citation, or we're really stringent in the rules. I look at on social media, I see some of these things. So look, I'll kind of put a little bit of that in perspective. So in 2019, we had roughly about 9,500 cases. We investigated over 13,500 violations. Of all of our cases and violations, we only wrote our ticket or citation rate was only 1.1%. So, citations for us is an absolute last resort. We don't like we just don't like writing them. I mean, we don't receive a penny for any citation we write. Often, it doesn't, just because we write a citation, it usually doesn't fix the problem, right? Because we've gone through all the warnings, we've gone through all the time of this violation, we write a citation, now we have to give it time to go through the court, which could take months to go through the court system, and all this time the citation is usually there, if not worse. So, our goal is to work with the community, work with you guys, and help. And, as long as you guys are communicating with us, we'll help you guys. But there's so many resources that we offer in the city, like you said, or like Hilt said, with the volunteer group. We have several volunteer groups that work directly with code compliance that we can call. And, if a homeowner, again, elderly or disabled or whatsoever, if they just need that extra bit of help, we can try to match you with the volunteer group to take care of it.
That's great. I had a question unrelated to this, but I'm going to answer it really quickly. And bear in mind, if you ask a question here, we'll reach out to you afterwards as well. Somebody asked about that Peoria support link. I think you can actually, again, off the top of my head, I think you can actually go to www.peoriaaz.gov/Peoria support. I think we made a quick link for that one. But I will make sure and I'll send it to you online. And also, I'd like to mention, because I think this really is related to you, we have a maybe Nextdoor. Are you guys familiar with Nextdoor?
Yes.
Nextdoor is a social media platform that the city of Peoria has been invited to join. We've got 55,000 homes on there, and when we have something like a virtual job fair, we just sent that out on Nextdoor today.
Nice.
Or a major street closure. So a lot of people say, I never heard about this. Well, follow us on social media, which you are, because I know that you're following us here. Follow us on social media, follow us on Nextdoor, and make sure you get all of those updates. All right, so we're going to pivot now to parking, and let's ask a general question. I've got 5 cars and 4 spots. I'm just going to put it right in the middle of my yard. What kind of parking issues do you guys see?
So that's a good question. I mean, as you can imagine, we probably see almost everything, right? I mean, as far as parking is a little tricky. There's when we talk about parking and basically parking what's considered your front yard, there's basically 3 different codes that you have to follow. The first one is are you parking on a dust-proof approved surface? Typically, that's going to include rock, aggregate, things like that. It has to be at least 3 inches thick. And again, that is to cut down on the dust. So that's kind of the first regulation that pertains to parking. The second regulation is there is an amount of parking space that you're allowed to have on your property. And if you think about it, I mean, the city doesn't want your entire front yard to be concreted and have 15 cars on that. So typically what that means is for most houses within the city of Peoria, you're allowed probably about 30 feet of parking space width-wise, okay? So there is a formula. So if you have any specific questions on, I would ask that you probably contact the planning department, because they'll look at the size of your property, they'll do all the measures and tell you for sure. But let's say 30 feet, okay? So let's say the typical driveway is probably 25 feet, right, in width. So what that says is that you have 5 feet on either side that you can kind of play with, right? So let's say I have a motorcycle, 2 vehicles and a motorcycle. Yes, I can use 5 feet off to the side to park as long as it's on a dust-proof surface. The third part, though, is what kind of gets most residents, unfortunately, and that says it has to be contiguous to your legal driveway. And how we define your legal driveway is kind of what you would imagine from the point from the street to your garage or carport, right? So that concreted spots. So it has to be contiguous. So what this really, I guess, hurts the community as far as parking spaces is when you have what we call like a transitional parking for like an RV or something like that. So let's say your driveway is over here, right? And your RV parking is over here. It wouldn't be contiguous, or it wouldn't be touching that driveway. So you would be able to use it as a transition from like obviously the street to your backyard. You just wouldn't be able to park there. So it's kind of difficult to give an actual like number of vehicles. It's based on kind of the width and everything else. But I mean, typically you can fit usually 3 cars in the city of Peoria. There are some areas that are smaller that you can't, and we get that. But I mean, do understand that you are legally allowed to park on the street.
Okay. And is that do HOAs have?
That is a great question. So if HOA prohibits parking on the street, you have to go by what the HOA says. Okay, so thank you for bringing that up. I don't want to tell you guys to violate your HOAs and then get fined and send me the bill.
All the HOAs calling us.
Yeah, all the HOAs calling me on Monday morning.
Mark, can you talk a little bit about commercial vehicles and then maybe abandoned vehicles? I know those are 2 questions we get a lot.
Sure. Commercial vehicles, as far as being in residential areas, they cannot be parked in residential areas on the streets. Okay. Now, we do understand in certain situations where they might be loading or unloading, somebody's moving into a house, then that is okay. But any parking of tractor trailers or vehicles like that is prohibited in residential areas. Now, when it comes to abandoned vehicles.
Or vehicles under repair. I didn't mean necessarily abandoned, but being worked on.
So any vehicle that appears that is not drivable on a city street is what we call an inoperable vehicle. And that cannot be out in public view. Now, if you also don't have a current license plate in public view, then that also can't be in public view. You would have to get a current registration sticker on that license plate. So that kind of falls into the realm of what we call inoperable vehicles, and they have to be behind the back fence or some type of shielding and out of the public view. Having a car up on blocks, we will go out and we'll talk to the homeowner because the vehicle might be under repair. Now, we do allow 48 hours for that vehicle repair, and then it would have to come off, it's a jack stands or something like that, and have the appearance that it is now drivable and good operable condition. And we do find a lot of situations, people are trying to fix cars, and so they'll have the car up on jack stands and they'll start working on the car. And after 48 hours, it needs to come down. And then they can't come back to working on that car they have to have a 14-day period in between before they can start working on that car. So that's kind of how the code goes with inoperable vehicles.
Eric, anything you want to add to that?
Yeah, no, I think that's spot on. Obviously, we know a lot of people out there, they love working on the cars. In fact, we have an employee who's restoring a car right now. So again, we give you guys 48 consecutive hours. So once you start, that kind of starts the time. So you can do that 48 consecutive hours within a 14-day period. After 40 hours, again, just either it has to be what we call, again, operable, right? Or it has to be behind, a screening, so your backyard or your garage. Things like that. So kind of the key as far as an operable vehicle is if it can be legally driven on the street, you're pretty much good to go. But if it can't be on the street, it can't be in public view.
Gotcha. Yeah, and again, it's all about kind of making the neighborhood look the way we want it to look. What about somebody having materials delivered to their house? I know that happens a lot, and suddenly there's 3 tons of rock in your front yard. What's the code on that? So
the code it's a little tricky on that. So what we ask first and foremost is don't have things delivered into the street. Okay, we've all driven by and we see you get your yard landscaped. Great. We're happy. We love that your yard is being landscaped. We just don't want the rock in the middle or in the street. It is a danger to people. Typically those things are never coned. So we just don't want cars going and hitting that pile. So what we're going to ask is if you're going to have something delivered like that, you're going to have it delivered in your yard or on your driveway. Again, we kind of understand, people use their driveway for your vehicles and things like that. If again, HOA allows it, put your vehicle on the street and get that rock or whatever in your driveway. As far as, one of these things that we're seeing popping up, and actually we used are these, the containers, the U-Haul containers or whatever that show up, right? So the code really is kind of silent on those things. So technically speaking, they would not be allowed. But again, we're all reasonable homeowners ourselves, right? So we understand people are moving out of the city of Peoria. So, we're going to allow you to have that in your driveway. Just give us a call and let us know. If you're having it more, there for more than a week or you're in for weeks, we're probably going to have a different conversation. But we understand, people are having their stuff delivered and you need time to go through that and get rid of it.
And please don't block the sidewalk.
Yes.
That is one of our biggest complaints that kind of comes into our office. Obviously because it becomes an ADA violation, not having, accessibility,
right.
To the sidewalk. It becomes a big, safety issue for pedestrians walking. So we get a lot of calls. We get a lot of calls on basketball goals, blocking the sidewalks. We're all about the kids, playing and having activity, but if you do have the basketball goal there, please move it back off the sidewalk and don't block the sidewalk.
And I think that's just common courtesy, right? It's if you see someone walking down the sidewalk, just these things have rollers, right? So just roll it off the sidewalk, let someone pass, and then you can roll it back. But again, don't leave it there overnight.
We have a question from Jason online. Thank you, Jason, for it's a couple of different questions, but let's start with this one. Mark, what can you tell me about green pools?
Green pools, there's 2 avenues that we can go with green pools. We will go out and we will make contact with the homeowner about the green pool because obviously it is a big safety issue as far as the infestation of mosquitoes, and then plus with children possibly falling in the pool, you might not be able to see them. So that becomes a huge safety issue and concern. So we will go out and make contact with a homeowner if the property, there is a homeowner in the property, and we have a certain protocol, and the time frame is not as long as it is for some of our other violations like weeds and stuff like that. We need that problem kind of taken care of immediately, so your window to take care of it is cut down within 3 days to get that pool taken care of. Now there is another resource where you can reach out to Maricopa County Vector Control, and you can work with them, and they'll come in and they have some different options to help clean up your pool at minimal fee or sometimes no fee, depending on the situation. Now if the property isn't occupied and it's a vacant property and say somebody's moved out, then you need to contact Maricopa County Vector Control because they will go in and they will take care of it immediately.
Great.
And
Yeah, and vector control is a great resource. They're actually, what's really interesting about them is in some circumstances, they'll actually go over the fence and throw like chemicals into the pool.
Right.
So where we don't have the ability or the authority to do that, they will. So especially like Officer Hilt said, if it's abandoned, they're a great resource. Their number is 602-506-6616. That's a complaint line, so feel free to give them a call. But of course, you can give us a call, and we can help you work through that as well.
And Jason says it is a vacant house next to him. So Jason, we gave that number out, but we will also reply to your post after this is over, and we will make sure you get that phone number. And you can, like you said, you can always call us. It sounds like Maricopa is going to be the end user here, but feel free to call us, and we can help out as well. Okay, another one. Eric, can you talk a little bit about running a home business?
So yeah, I mean, Peoria, we love our home occupations or home businesses, right? So we have quite a few in the city of Peoria, and we love them. So the general rule for most cities, or if you're running a business or you're running or providing a service in the Peoria, you need a business license. If you're running it out of your home, there's an extra step of that business license called a home occupation permit. It's not really a permit, but it's a step. And what we're going to look at, or what the city's going to look at, is what kind of impact does your business have on your neighbors? So there are certain businesses that, unfortunately, you will not be able to run out of your house. Barbers, salons, things like that. They won't be allowed to be run out of your house, mainly due to state licensing requirements and things like that. Auto mechanic shops, we're not going to allow you to run that out of your house because it has a major impact, a negative impact on the community and your neighbors. So, again, we love businesses. We encourage it. Just the sales tax and licensing division, they're just going to look at kind of, again, what impact does it have? How many customers do you anticipate to have or anticipate having in an hour? How many employees are you going to have on site? How busy are you going to be? So how much product is going to come and go throughout the day? So, as far as like your Mary Kay or your Lulu Row or things like that, we love it. Continue doing it. Just make sure you get a business license, and you're good to go.
Yeah, and let me talk a little bit to my entrepreneurs out there and my small business owners, because we are here to help you. Especially during current times, but always. Our Economic Development Division has a concierge whose job is to walk you through the process. And I know sometimes starting your small business, keeping your small business going, can be a little frightening. So please reach out to the Peoria Economic Development Department and see what they can do to help you with your small business. And they can walk you through, like you said, the permit process, the business license process, and make sure that you're doing everything the right way.
Absolutely.
So, and thank you for that question as well, coming from online. I'm going to check here real quick. I think we're running out of questions. If anybody has any other questions, please, now is the time to do it. I have a few more for you, and then we will wrap this up. So, again, thank you very much. I remember I came to your Code 101 class, and there was a lot of talk about this one. Can I build a shed in my backyard?
Oh. So sheds, that's a difficult one. So
sorry, I gave
no,
you.
it's a tough one.
Nuances in
There's
that.
a lot of nuances in that. So in many circumstances, yes, you can build a shed in your backyard. However, there's a lot of questions that need to be answered before we can give a specific answer, or questions before we can get a specific answer. So what we would do, we would ask you guys to contact the planning department and the building department, because they're the experts. They're going to look at the height, they're going to look at the width. If something is attached to your house, it's going to need a permit. If you have utilities running to it, it's going to need a permit. So contact the building department, contact the planning department. Feel free to reach out to us. We'll give you as much information as we can, but we're not the experts. But yes, I mean, you in most cases, you can have something in your backyard.
So this is a question, and I may know the answer to this one, but I'm going to let you do it. So somebody has a complaint about, we get my street lights out, there's graffiti, there's city property hanging over into my yard. We have this really cool app, and I have used it so many times myself. Can you tell us a little bit about Peoria Reporter?
So sure. So Peoria Reporter, it's a free app. You can do it on your Google phone or your Android phone and your iPhone. So you download it, you create an account. Again, you can be anonymous if you wish. But if you see something like graffiti or a violation of street light, all you have to do is take a photo of it, and it'll send it right to the correct department. So I will tell you, I get those on code compliance's side, or graffiti. So it's heavily used. I would say we would love for you guys to use it more, because often you guys are the first ones that are out there. You're driving around, driving to and from work. work to, to pick up your kids, school, things like that. So if you see it, report it. I mean, it doesn't really matter. Even if, 20 people are reporting it, it doesn't matter. Don't assume somebody's already reported it, because the sooner we know, the sooner we can take care of it. So yeah, I mean, it's a great tool to use, and it really helps out the city to help, make the city look nice.
Yeah, and the great thing is you can pull out and take a picture. A lot of times, even I don't know, I asked a question about, you guys, but it was animal control for the barking dog. So a lot of times I don't know, working for the city, who to contact, but I do know if I pull out that Peoria Reporter app, I take a picture of what is wrong, the pothole, the violation, I know that someone on the other end is going to get that. So I really encourage you to download on the Apple Store or your Google Play Store, whatever your favorite store is. It's Peoria Reporter app. Super easy to use, and there is somebody really on the other end who's getting that and taking care of it really quickly. To answer this person's question, because I really don't know the answer, there's a city property tree hanging over into her yard and scraping on her roof. I don't know who to call for that. That's what the Peoria Reporter app is for. Do you guys know the answer to that one?
I think it would be probably right away.
Right away.
Right away.
Yes.
I'm pretty sure.
I think so
but
too.
you can obviously call us. We have a direct line to obviously everybody in the city. Often everything comes to us anyways, and we kind of filter it out. So I believe the answer is right away. But yeah, give us a call.
That was my first thought too. And the right-of-way department is never going to pop into your mind with something like that. And we also have a great customer service line. It's just 623-773-7000. And their whole job is to direct you to the right department. So when in doubt, stick with the general number, customer service, and they can point you in the right direction. Our job, all of us, from the guys behind the camera here that are making this happen to me, all of us, our job is to make sure that our customers, which are our residents, are happy and are serviced. And that's what we're here to do today as well, just to make sure that we're here to help you. I think we are out of questions on here. Eric, do you have any last thoughts, anything we didn't discuss, or anything that you want to wrap up with? Last words to the public?
Sure. So I think the biggest takeaway that I could give the community is to communicate with us. If you're having an issue, let us know. Often what we find is, we'll go out there and we'll leave a notice on your property. We'll give you 7 days to take care of something. We'll go back and re-inspect, and the issue is still there, and we don't know. We don't know if you made a conscious decision just not to take care of it, or if there's something else that you need help with. So, and all of our notices that we send out, there's going to be our phone number, it's going to be our email address. Just reach out to us. We're here to help. We will work with you. We really will. To as long as you guys are taking good faith to come into compliance, which, the vast majority, 97% of you guys are, we will continue to work with you. If that means we have to extend, give you days, give you weeks, possibly even a month or so in certain circumstances, we will do that. But we don't know to help you if you don't reach out to us. So, my number, 623-773-7546. You can call me directly, and I can work with you and kind of be that go-between between you and the officer. But please reach out to your officer and let them know what's going on in your life. We understand. We all have families. We all have jobs, especially right now. It's a really weird time in our country. We understand what's going on, and we will help you.
Mark, any last thoughts?
Yeah, if I can just reiterate what Eric said, we're not the big bad wolf. And we want to work with you guys as homeowners and business owners to correct whatever problem is being brought to our attention. We have a vested interest, obviously, as employees, but a huge vested interest in this community and to make, Peoria one of the greatest cities, in America. And we go out every day and, strive to work with you guys, however we can do to figure out that problem and keep this city a great city that we work in and we reside in.
And I just want to say thank you to everybody for interacting with us on this live Q&A. That's really what social media is all about. It's our opportunity to connect with you in an interactive way. So you can always reach out to us. When in doubt, we get all sorts of questions on our Facebook page. You can message us directly. We have 30 some odd social media pages, everywhere from Nextdoor, Instagram, Twitter, you name it, we have it. Your council members have social media pages. You can follow your council members on social media and have that direct access. You know, you just gave your phone number out, and I know that blows people's minds sometimes because it's so hard to reach somebody, but you know, all of our email addresses are our first name dot last name at peoriaaz.gov. You know, we make it as easy as we can to find us. So reach out to us through social media. Thank you guys for taking the time to watch us live Q&A. Thank you too for taking the time to educate our residents. And just because we're signing off does not mean we're gone. Feel free to continue to ask questions. If you're watching this tomorrow or the next day, reach out. We'll continue to monitor this stream and we will get back to you. Thank you everybody for watching and have a wonderful and safe weekend.